So at this point, we're almost done with the single player example here. Next, we're going to add some containers to the world that we can interact with. And next, after that, we will do a vendor that accepts a certain cash or currency from our inventory, of course. And of course, you can also sell items to this vendor. So let's start with containers. So of course, we want to make a new blueprint here. So I'm going to go here and do new folder, and I'm going to call it world containers here. And I'm going to make a blueprint class here, and I'm going to make it an actor. And then there's going to be a main container BP. Okay, so main container BP, and then here, of course, we can add whatever we need here, but it's essentially going to have the same thing. So we will add the interface here. So jig interact interface here, and of course, like we've seen previously with the pickup blueprint, we have these thing here. So on item used, we don't need get pickup info here. So I'm not going to do the same thing in terms of like the widget visual where you interact with the container and then you show some text, because it's essentially the same thing. Like if you can do it with the pickup, you can do it with this one. So let's not waste time here, and let's just get into what's important here. What we're gonna do here is when we interact with the container, the container will generate the widget that we will add to our inventory, so we can like take items or put items in. Maybe we should work on the widget first. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll do a new folder here, and then widgets, and then we'll make a simple user widget here. So I'm gonna call this a y underscore not vendor, but container widget. So you can have multiple containers, of course, and you can have multiple widgets for each container. So of course, here you have the option to customize the widget however you want. So we're gonna delete the canvas because the widget will be added to something in our inventory, like a overlay or a border or something. So we don't need the canvas there. We will add and of course here want it to be desired here. So I'm going to add a vertical box here, and to this vertical box I'm going to add 2 GSI containers. So we will make this container have 2 containers. So we'll name it container 1 and container 2. Why not? So of course I'm gonna copy here and paste, and that's my second container here. So I can maybe change the size of this one. So maybe on the columns here I can do a 3 here instead of that one. So and then reduce the number of rows to 4 or 3 as well. So and then I can center it there and then add some spacer. So go ahead and do that. So for the spacer here, we're going to do like 20 or 10. Why not? So this is going to be the container that we were going to add. Now this is you want to take the chance here to, of course, modify the permissions. So what can we do on this container? Can we drag? Can we do anything? So we'll leave everything as is. And of course, we want to disable the drop here, allow drop to ground, of course. So the auto perform split and stack works the same way as the handle container to container, which means that when you split an item, for example, the action will not happen, but you will get an event that you can handle. So the same thing for the perform stack as well. The stack will not happen, but you will get an event triggered, which means that you have the chance to do it yourself or validate it or whatever. Allow context menu. Let's go ahead and maybe disable that if we want. But you can enable and then maybe equip from the container. We'll see about that later. But maybe we need to verify that it's a that it's a container that's coming from a container, then equip it there. But yeah, so we can leave it. It's fine. Okay, so this is our 2 containers. So now we want to go to the main inventory here and see how that looks. So we'll go to widgets, main inventory here. So we need to find the space here to add our content. So let's see what we have here. I'm gonna minimize everything here. So we have this one here. So maybe I can wrap this with a horizontal box and then add that there. So let's go ahead and do that. Wrap with horizontal box there. And then I'm going to add a vertical box to this horizontal box. So this one's going to be on the right side. And then of course I can do a spacer there if I want. There. And then do like 5, for example. So this vertical box right there is going to have maybe a text indicating whatever that I'm working with, for example, container or vendor or whatever. So this value will be taken from the container itself. So each container can have a different name. So that container name or whatever. So let's just do that. And then of course we're going to add a border here or overlay. And that overlay here is where we add the content of the what do you call it? The container or vendor or whatever thing we're interaction with. So adding 0 there. For the content or the brush color here, I'm just going to reduce that there and then maybe do 0.3 there. We should be fine there. Okay, so by default these will be hidden right there. So we're going to select make this a variable, and I'm going to rename it and do content VB for a vertical box. So let's just name it content there, and then of course for the visibility here it's going to be hidden by default. So for visibility it's going to be hidden so that when I play, of course, I can't see it. So what we want to do here is of course assign this widget to a certain container, not this widget, of course, this one. So in here inside the main container BP, we're gonna make a variable here and we're gonna call it container widget. Okay, so it's gonna be a user widget. So a user widget, so in general it will take any widget. So we're gonna do that, and then the category here we'll do settings. And of course now we need to make some kind of array where we indicate what kind of items should be in this container. So we already have one struct created, so we can just simply do a variable here. So we can name this variable container items. So the default container items, this is going to be public and going to be in the settings tab. For the variable type here is going to be default item info. This one has if we go here, it has the an ID, count, price, and data table, which is perfect with what we need here. We only need an ID and count and data table. Price not needed, but it can be used for the vendor, so we'll just use the samstruct. And so by the way, after this, the container and vendor will talk about attachments. We'll see how to add a magazine to a weapon and then shoot the weapon and of course consume the ammo from the magazine. So we need this variable to be an array, so we'll select this one right here. So that is an array right now, and of course we can add items to it. So by default it's going to be empty. So now in the main container here, we will use the on interact begin here to start our implementation here. So of course it's also a do once, so we only want to do this once, so we'll use a sequence there. Maybe if we need something else, so when we interact with the this thing, so we will create the widget. So this is the class that we need. Okay, so we need to change it to a class, user widget class, not a reference. So we have a object reference and a class reference. We need a class reference there. So that's what we need here. So we'll use it there. So create the widget there. And then of course this is where you save the reference that we will send later to the character. So it's added to the inventory here. So we'll call it like container widget here, or a container widget ref this time. So once we do this, now it's time to generate the items that are in the container. So this would be time to either use predefined items or generate random items. So we can actually try to make it generate random items instead. So let's see if we have a random item here, random container item. So let's work with that. So with this one we get to enter to have like the item ID, data table, and spawn chance. Okay, so we can make the implementation there. based on this, of course. So, but of course we need to add the items. So we will handle this here. So we will make a function and do roll items here to, of course, roll for the items there. And then, of course, this one we're going to use this, like there. We're going to break this. Okay, then now we're going to get a random float in range. Now, if you don't need it to be random, you can simply select 100% chance and it will be spawned every time. So that's the spawn chance from 0 to 100. And then, of course, here we went from 0 to 100 as well. And so if this is less or equal to this one, then that means we successfully rolled this item. So now we can put the item there, put the item in the container. So if it's true, then we will take the widget reference. So from this reference, we can get the list of containers from a certain widget by maybe using a interface here. So since we have this one here, we can go to the graph, go to the class settings, and use the GSI, or not there. Actually, we need to get the interface here. So interface is here. You want to click on add, and then there's a GSI special widget interface. This one has a function that allows you to return the list of containers that you have. So get list of containers, and then we'll return these two. So we'll just make here. So we're going to return 2. So I'm going to do this and then return the other one as well. There you go. And we can override these functions on child containers for some specific behavior as well. So it's going to return these 2 containers. And now I can go here and just, since this is a user widget object reference, I can just do get list of containers. So I'm going to try to add this item to one of these containers, to the first one, and if it fails, I'll add it to the second one. So essentially I'm just going to do a for each, with break. So once I add it, then I abort the loop. So so what we're going to do here is we're going to add new inventory item. Okay, so if this succeeds, then I break here. So that means I don't want to continue anymore, and I can go back here and look for another item. So that's it. Of course, the item here, I need to get the item. So I'm just going to do item ID and data table here. So item ID, there you go, data table from here. Okay, and from count, it doesn't matter. We can take it from the data table, or you can add another variable to this struct and indicate the count here. But try rotate it true, and that's essentially all I need here. So that's essentially it. Yeah. So once we roll for a certain item, we get all the containers, and we try to add them to one certain container, and if it succeeds, then it should be fine. So now I can call the roll items here. There you go. I don't think we need an interact end here, but you can use it for some visual things if you want. So for the can't interact here, I'm just going to set it to true because I don't see why we shouldn't be able to. So true by default. And so this is all we need to do here. So now what I can do here is I can go to the container folder here, and then I can create a child, and I can name it like container underscore random items, and then I can open it and then specifically take care of it. In terms of visual, I can just add a cube there, okay, and then I can just put it in the world. But first, of course, I need to indicate the random items. So for this one, I'm going to go class default settings here. So for the container widget, I'm going to select the container, the one that I just created, y underscore container widget, which is this one, not this one, I guess I close it, which is this one right here. So next I can indicate the items. So let's see, based on the data tables, of course. So what do we have here? So we have data weapons. Let's see what we have in data weapons. So in data table and data weapons, we have a rifle, a backpack, mag, and bullet. So let's add some of those. So let's see, for a rifle here, I'm going to set the chance here to 50%. Okay, and then a mag from the data weapons, then I can set the chance to 75%. And by the way, like I said, if you need something to always be in a certain container, then use 100%. And then maybe, what do we have here? We have mag, bullets, maybe take something from the other data tables. Let's see, armor, maybe helmet and boots. So let's go ahead and add those there. So click on the plus sign there. So this is going to be a helmet from the armor, data armor here. And of course, from the helmet here, we can take the data helmet. And be careful with the default data table. So we have data table armor, Those are used in the examples, but our data table in this example are data underscore something. So we only have these. So we'll use the armor here, and then we'll take the boots. So for helmet, I'm gonna do the spawn chance to 80%, and then this one maybe 35%. Okay, so that's gonna be take care of that. So now we only need to interact with this item in the world. So we'll put it here. We're going to the character here, and then we have this blueprint right here. So when I click on F, I interact with the world. So I can cast this to a main container BP, which is our custom container here. So on the failed, of course. So I can promote this to a variable, and I can see, and I can rename that to current world container. So I keep track of the container that I'm interacting with in case I need something else. So now I can make sure that it's not the same, and then of course proceed here. So there you go. So if it's not the same thing, then interact with it. So we're gonna do on begin here, on interact begin first, and then we're going to get that widget. So get the container widget reference, and then I'm going to get the inventory here. So I'm going to get the inventory, and I forgot one thing though, which is the name of the container here. Not very important, but we can add it here. So container name, and this is going to be a string or text, and then of course not a container there, and then do settings. Of course we can customize it later. So for now we're just gonna say container here. Going back to the character here, like there, and then now we want to maybe make a function inside the main inventory here, and we're gonna name it custom event here. This is inside the main inventory. Add container widget. I guess we can just call it add container widget, and of course this is gonna take in a user, or like a name, the widget name. It doesn't have to be a container name, it could be also a vendor name, so we'll make that a text, and then the container itself, or whatever widget. So user widget, so it's going to be a user widget reference. So container, or I guess container ref. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take this border right here. Let's make it a variable here. So let's see, content container content, and then we'll make it a variable there. So this is where we want to add our thing here, and we'll make this also a variable, the text container text. There you go. So now we need both of these. So first of all, let's go ahead and clear any children that this container has. Then we're going to add child, add the child to this container, which is this one. And of course I'm going to take this text here, and I'm going to set the text, and that text will be the name coming from here. And then finally show this this content VB, because it's hidden by default. So set visibility here to visible. There you go. And we can also do custom event clear container widget, and in this case it's going to be the same thing here, clear, and we simply need to hide it. Okay, that's all we need. Just set it to hidden. So we'll need this event later. So now going back to the character, we can simply call that event. So add container widget, this widget, and get container name. And of course, if the inventory is not shown, we need to add it to the viewport. Let's see, is visible. If it's not visible, oops. If it's not visible, add to viewport. And of course, get player controller, set input mode, game and UI. Game and UI, and of course show the mouse here to true. Okay, so and also we need to handle when the inventory is closed. We need to remove the thing, but that's easily handled. So let's go ahead and actually interact with this guy, and there you go. So as you can see, this is the container added to our container content. This is the name, because this one has by default container. And it looks like we actually got the rifle, 50% chance there, and of course we didn't get the boost, but we got these two. So as you can see here, I can actually move them to my container just like that. I can even equip them, and of course move whatever I want, and I can also put things back in the container, do this as well. And of course now we need to handle, you know, closing the container, because now the container is still there, and the easiest way to do that is just do it from the main inventory itself. Because this event, or not event, but this inventory has an event called event destruct, and this event triggers when the widget is removed from the viewport. So all I need to do is just call this event right here, or just do the same thing here essentially. So let's go ahead and try it now. I'm actually going to leave the inventory closed here to test it out. So I'm going to press F, and as you can see, it brings out the inventory. It shows me the content. This time we got all of them actually. That's lucky. And now if I press E and then go away and press E again, as you can see, the container is not there. So we also need to clear that container reference. So the easiest way is to get the owner here. Owning pawn or owning controller, owning player pawn. That is a pawn. I want the player controller here. So that has to be a player controller. Then I get controlled pawn. Okay, and then of course I can cast to my character tutorial, and then I can clear. So we want to clear that container reference here. So set current world reference to nothing. So now I can go ahead and interact with it, close and interact with it again. But also make sure, because this one will not work if you don't pass a I'm not sure if it's changed in 25, but usually you need to go to the player controller, and of course make sure when you create the inventory you pass self as the owning player here. Okay, so that's container. Containers, of course, you can make more child blueprints and add you know, make different configurations. So let's go ahead and handle vendors, a vendor for example. So the difference here is that when you drop something over the vendor's inventory, you want to sell your item instead of like moving your item there. And the same thing is when you take away something from the vendor, that means you want to buy it. So the let's go ahead and actually do the same thing. So it's essentially the same thing as the container here. So we're going to be copying some things here. So I'm going to do vendor here, and maybe I'll just copy this one. So for the vendor, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this main container BP because it's essentially the same thing. So I'm going to drop it over vendor folder and then do copy. Then I'm going to name this to y_vendor BP here. Then I'm going to open it here, and we have this same setup here. We don't need the role items here. Probably we can just name it create items. And of course, going to the same thing, everything except for the variables here. We're going to go to the settings variable here, if I can find it. So for the default, for this random container, we're going to change it to a default item info here, and then we'll do change variable type here. Of course, we're going to get some errors here. So for the role items here, I'm going to, of course, do the same thing here probably. Actually, let's just go ahead and delete this. Let's just go ahead and compile, and then go back to this, and then if I click on the plus sign here, we're going to have ID count price. So that's more suited for a vendor. Role items, we'll rename that to create items here, and of course here we're going to create the items. For a vendor, we probably only need one container, but you can totally make it more than one container. So we're going to do the same thing here, get list of containers. So we're going to add a for each here, container items, do the break here, and then of course do this. So just in case we have more than one container, we can keep doing that. So for each with break over these, like that. So add new inventory item, and this is going to be this item right here, this count, and of course the price. So we're going to do, this is the data table. So if it's added here, we're going to do a sequence, and once I'm done, I break so that I stop trying to add to other containers. Now, since this is a container, we'll do try rotated, of course. This is the price. So if then we're going to do a change price here, since we might have a different price here. So I'm going to take that one and put it there. So it's pretty much the same thing. We have everything here. So that is container widget reference, doesn't matter. So now we need to create our widget here. So we'll do a folder and then do widgets and then make a widget. So I can just copy the other one and then modify it. So I'll go to world container widget and then drag that over the vendor widget, copy, come here and do y underscore vendor widget. So with vendor widget, we can have some extra stuff. For now, I'm just going to work with one container, and then I'm going to add some, filter options here on the left side to show you some options. So for the size here, I'm going to make something bigger here, maybe an 8 by maybe a 6 by 8, maybe something like that. And then we go here, and then of course this is going to throw an error, so we'll remove this. So now it only returns one container, and that's all we need here. So let's go ahead now and maybe change this container name to vendor. Okay, so vendor by default. So we'll go back here, make a child out of this. So we'll just name it child. We'll keep it that way. We'll add let's add a skeletal mesh here, and then maybe make a character here. So maybe skill or like mannequin there, sk mannequin. And then use a animation asset here, and then use the idle, third person idle there, and then we'll use this guy to interact with. So make sure the collision here is set to custom, and then of course you want to block the visibility here for sure. So I think that should work just fine. So we'll put him in the world here, and of course feel free to modify the visuals to whatever you want. Something like this, and then we'll see if that works. So back to the character here. So if this fails, we can check if it's a vendor. So cast to vendor to y vendor BP, and it's essentially the same thing. Now once again, you can definitely replace all this casting with something better if you think there is something better. But for now, for like quick testing, casting to the class is usually just easier to work with than like maybe creating some interface or some other functions that could work for everything. But just for the sake of time, let's just go ahead and cast. We're gonna do the same check here. So this is a main container, so I'm gonna go ahead and do promote to variable here, and I'm gonna do current vendor ref. So we're simply gonna copy the same thing here, so that we can just keep clicking on the same vendor multiple times. So if this is not equal to this vendor, then we go here, and it's essentially the same blueprint here. So we're gonna do this right here, and then we're gonna go here, like there. So it's the same thing. It's gonna add the inventory again. Name here, container name, that's what we're gonna use there. And of course the widget here, so get the widget reference. Okay, so now in the vendor here on the child, so on the child here, I need to set that the items and the widget here. So my vendor widget, and then add the items here. So I'm just gonna click here, add the rifle maybe. For the count here, you can change it to something maybe to indicate the stock. So maybe make it like 250 or whatever, like maybe 250 rifles. And then for the price, we can make it like, so let's make it like 1500 or something. Of course, this one exists in data weapons, and now we can add helmets. And these helmets, we're gonna have 500 helmets for the price of 300. 250, why not? All right, so we're gonna have these 3 items, and for the container here, you need to set some permissions here for sure. So now for the permissions here, so we'll go here. So allow drag, sure. Allow moving items on drop, no. This is within the same container. Allow opening containers, no. Handle container to container, no. Let's not handle that. And then I'm actually gonna handle all the events here on this vendor. And then I'll communicate with the player to tell them what to do. Show prices, yes. Allow, no. And this, of course, disable all this. Disable trigger item over item, no. Since we don't have a buy button, we can disable it. So let's see how this looks. Let's see if we can actually interact with the vendor. So it looks like I can't even trace to him. Okay, so I can't trace to him. So I think that's because of the collision here. No collision. Okay, so this is it. So even though you have this set, you need to make sure that this. So since we're only dealing with the traces here, we can make it a query only. So now I can try, and I should be able to trace to the vendor here. So there you go. So I press that, and as you can see, this is the vendor. So as you can see, if I move it here, it's not gonna work, and here it's not gonna work because I need to handle it. Because now, since it's a vendor, I need to handle the container to container myself to verify if I actually have enough money to buy this thing. So the price is, when you hover, it says 250, 1500, 300, and this is how many items are there. So when we buy one, we'll update the count to a -1. So the vendor has like 249, etc. So now we need to handle buying from the vendor and also selling to the vendor. Of course, we need to do the same thing here. Go into the vendor widget here, not the vendor, but the my main widget, the inventory widget here. And of course, go here and set the vendor reference to nothing as well. So it's cleared. All right, so let's go ahead and work on money here. So I'm going to the data tables here. So I'm going to data here. Then I'm going to consumables. I guess I can add it to consumables. Why not? So let's go ahead and open and do money here. And of course the same here. And for the type here, I'm going to do, let's see if I have currency. Okay, so we'll use currency 1. Common, can stack, and then we'll make it a 9,999. And then of course I do have a money here, or cash. Yep, I do, so we'll use that. And dimensions 1 by 1, item name, money, and display name M, why not? It's not a container, and we don't have, so this is data, consumables. Yeah, so we don't need to make an actor class here. We can just add the money directly to the inventory. So yeah, I think that's all we need. So let's go ahead and add this to our vendor here, not the vendor, to my inventory here. So my inventory here, I'm gonna add some money by default. So money count, I'm gonna make it like I'm gonna add 6,000 there, and the price doesn't matter. Data consumables. Oops. Data consumables. Compile. There you go. So now I have 6,000 there, and let's see if I can buy. Now, of course, we need to handle that logic first. So in the vendor, I guess we could do it on the main vendor, I guess. So main vendor, where is it? Okay, here we go. So vendor BP. So we need to actually handle the inventory events. So we are going to get the container widget, get list of containers. We can do a for each here, and then we're going to bind the unhandled event. And remember that we enabled the get all event, so this will trigger whether I'm putting something in the vendor or taking something away. So it's going to trigger either way here in one place. So event on vendor action. Okay, so how do I know if I want to sell or buy something? So you can easily check if this contains. If you have one container, you can check if it equals, but since we have multiple here, we can do. So if two container, if this one contains a two container, that means I want to sell something. If you want to buy something, you can try this from container. So if this one contains the from, then that means the player wants to buy something. So it's coming from the vendor's container to the player's container, which means you're trying to take something from the vendor to your own inventory, which of course means that you want to buy. So true means buy. So buy a true, false. So if it's true, we are going to check if the player has enough money first. So to do that, we actually need the player's reference. So we'll make a variable here, and we'll make a player ref. So this player reference is going to be a exact reference, which is the character tutorial. So character tutorial here. So object reference, and we need to set this reference when we actually interact with the vendor. So back to the here. So once we interact with the vendor here, I need to set that reference. So set player player reference, which is of course self. So the player is self, which is me, essentially this class. Okay, so now we have access to this player. Of course, the best way to do it is probably to include it in the on interact begin. This event right here should have a reference to whoever is interacting with the vendor. So go in here to the main vendor. So now that we have the player, we're actually going to check if the player has enough money. And of course, we can make a function, do check if money available. And of course, here we're gonna do float price, and the yeah, that's it. So we just need the price here. So of course, this we need to return true result, and it's gonna be pure here. So here, then we're gonna use this. As you can see, if it's pure, it's gonna look like that. So now we're gonna check if he has enough money. So the price here. So what's the price? So so the dropped slot reference is the item that you want to buy here. So get. So we're gonna get this item right here. So we're gonna get the info here. Get info, and then we're gonna break that info, and then I will get the price. So the price is. So here we go. So that's the price right there. Okay, so we're gonna check if we can actually buy that item there, and of course the we need to handle this function. So how can we check if the player has enough money? So we do have the reference of the player, so we can check from the main container. So let's get the inventory here, and then get the main container. So if you have pants or backpack, you can of course check there. We can also check in the backpack container, but for simplicity here, let's just check in the main container. So get the main container here. Then we'll go into do get items by, and then we can search by ID, ID list, or items by type. So obviously if you have multiple currencies, you can search by ID to be specific, or since in our case here, we're simply gonna search by type here. So by type, then I'm gonna select the currency 1. Okay, so I'm gonna try to find this. Okay, so it's gonna return the number or all the items that match the currency. Okay, so then I'm going to do a loop through all these items until I reach the price here. So price is essentially just count here. So get count. Count is equal to the price essentially. So I'm going to promote that to a local variable, and I'm going to do current money, something like that. All right. So then I'm going to do this plus this one, and then put it there. So the current money plus this one, because I'm looping, so I have to keep adding, and then check if this money, if this is greater or equal to get price. This price is just the input here. If it's true, then I'm going to return yes, you have enough money. Let's go. And finally, I'm just going to return false here. Okay, so if you have enough money, you can buy there. So let's see. If you have enough money, I'm just going to add the weapon to, or whatever item, to the main container for now. For now, we're just going to get the main container here and try to add there. So we will try to add the item before taking the money, because if the player has the inventory full, then we will not add the item, and therefore we will not take the money. So we'll add the item first, then we'll take the money. So where's the main container here? Main container. Here we go. And then we're going to add new inventory item and simply get the ID here. So we already have this information here. Data table. Oops. Data table right there. And of course the account, we'll just get it from the data table there. So if it's successful, we're going to take the money from the player and update the vendor stock. So let's start with the vendor stock. So this is the item. We're going to do remove count, and then we're going to do -1 here. Actually not -1, 1. We're going to remove 1. You can also use update count if you want to put like a specific amount. But for now, we're going to take away 1. So that's why we do remove number 1, remove if no, and call on stack change no. Okay. So if the item becomes 0, do you want to remove it? In our case, we don't. So we're gonna put that there. So we're gonna do this if new count equals 0. So we want to do the sit highlight, sit sort highlight here to faded true, and we will not be able to interact with it. Sit interact. There you go, and then false. There you go. So these two nodes right here will make the item look faded, and you can't interact with it. So this is when the stock runs out, essentially. So maybe we should reduce the stock so to verify if this actually works or not. So we'll do that later. But for now, let's just make sure that we actually can buy something. We will handle the money later. Okay, so let's see if I can actually take this weapon. Okay, so I can, but of course it added it to an empty space, so I need to handle that too. So I already have the sort index here, so instead of -1, I need to put it there. And let's actually make the stock of the vendor pretty low here. So edit blueprint here, and of course for the rifle, I'm gonna make the count 1. He has only 1 rifle to sell. Let's do that. So he has a rifle. I'm gonna take it. And as you can see, there you go. So now I can't take it anymore because there was only 1. It's sold out, and we're done. That's verified and it works great. And also, of course, now it has where I want it. So of course this will be selling. He didn't take the money, so now we need to take care of that. Okay, so now we're gonna handle taking away money from the player. So now that we sold the item and got added successfully, we need to take the money. So now we're gonna make a function, take away or take money from player. And of course the same thing, the price here. So float price. So it's the same thing here. So we'll do this here. Call the function here. Oops, actually, we need to do it just after that. So now that we got added, we can take away the money. And the price here is the same as this. Okay, so there we go. So now let's go ahead and handle it. So essentially, it's the same thing here. We're gonna do the same thing here. Yep, the same thing. Go back here. There we go. So we're gonna search for all the money once again. Do this current local. So we want to search for all the currency 1 items, and then we're going to name this remaining. So remaining here, let me just delete this. So the remaining is going to be the same as the price essentially. So before we do anything, we'll set that to be the same as the price, and then we'll start taking away. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna get the count from the item. Then we're going to check if it's less than remaining. If it's less, then we're going to take that count and then remove the item. If it's greater, then we're going to update it. So we're going to say if this count is less than the remaining, just going to the local variables here. So if it's true, so actually we're not going to do less or equal, not less or equal to the remaining, then we will essentially just do remaining. So remaining minus this amount right here, and then of course remove this, remove from JSI parent. There you go. So that is our first step, and if it's false, then that means that this one we need to update it. So we'll update count here. There you go, and we're just simply gonna do get count minus the remaining amount. Here we go, and of course once that's done, we can return here because we're done essentially. Result true. Here we need to verify if this equals to 0. Then we also we'll get out essentially. So let's go ahead and give it a try actually, and see if I actually lose the 1500 from the weapon here. So this weapon cost 1500 and I have 6000, so I should have 4500, right? And there you go. So I do have 4500 there, so that's correct. But we need to handle the other situation where I have less money and or the exact money. So go in here and the default items, no, not that one. So I need the main inventory here, and for the money here, I'm going to make it 1500 exactly. So let's see how that works. If we got the math right. There you go. So I should lose all my money, and I did. Okay. What if I have less? Maybe just 1200. So there you go. So I can't buy because it's not enough, and maybe we should print some string or whatever, but I'll let you take care of that. So let's go back to 6000. And so now buying items works nice. So now we need to sell items here. So selling items is actually easier than buying items. So we'll go to the main vendor here. So obviously for the buying items, it's on the false here. So false means that you want to sell an item. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. We don't need to make any functions for it. It's pretty straightforward. All you gotta do here is to get the info, break it, and you have the price here. So this is the price that we need. There we go. Of course, if you want to sell with half price, do divide it by 2. But for our case here, let's just keep the prices the same in case we need to try multiple times sell and buy. So we'll get the player here, get the inventory, get the main container, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to try to add that money first. You don't want to add the money, you don't want to take away the item if you can add the money to the player's inventory. So we can try to stack, but this is not guaranteed to stack everything. So it might stack partially, and so we want to avoid that. So of course here it comes down to what money you want to give the player. So I'm just gonna hard code it here to money, which is I know in the consumable data table. But you can have that as a setting if you want. So count, of course the count is going to be the price. So count is equal to price. And of course to sort -1, just try to find it whatever. Rotated, try rotated. This is a 1 by 1, so it doesn't really matter. So we'll do that. So if it gets added here, then well, I'll show you the try stack if you want. Yeah, so true. If it's true, then I'll just get this sort the dropped sort here and here and do remove from GSI parent. So remove from GSI parent if it's true, of course. And so let's give it a try here. So this only this is for selling items to the vendor. So let's say I have this magazine that I want to sell, and I received $1, I guess, for that magazine. And I wonder if it's because we didn't set a price here, or so let's go to weapons and magazine. So what is the default price here? It's a 0. Interesting. So let's make that a 50. And that, and also of course I need to get the information from the dropped item, not the slot receiver. So make sure you get the dropped item, the one that you're trying to sell, get the price from it, and of course the add that as a count. So let's see if we can sell that magazine to the vendor for 50, and as you can see that sells for 50, and of course I can stack it manually. Or if you want to stack it manually, you can do the try to stack here, and let's see, and this will tell you if it's stacked or not. So let's go ahead and try that now. So I should have 6,050 automatically stacked. Okay, so there we go. Now I have 6,050. So right now I can buy everything I want. So this one as well, we need to take care of that, rotating the item. So obviously if I do this, it gets added, but if I try to sell it rotated, I can't, and that's easily done because this one right here. So rotated, we have it here, just plug it there, and we should be, essentially we can buy items rotated if we want. So I can buy this rotated here, there you go, and this here, this here, and this here, there you go. So now I have 3,650. So that's essentially a vendor. We can also have some functions for highlighting items in the vendor here. So let's go ahead and do that. The way you can do that here is here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to wrap with a horizontal box. Yes, horizontal box right there, and then in here I'm going to make a vertical box where I'm going to add some buttons right there. Now I'm gonna let's see if it's the right. It's fine. Okay, so I think we do have a button here for sort or something. Sorting icon widget. Let's see if it okay, so that's it. That's the one we need. So that's what we want to do here. So the sorting icon widget, so we can make this sort the by types in the vendor here. We need to change some settings here. So let's see. So this is the settings here. We can add the sort types here. So let's say I'm gonna sort by rifles. You can add as many items as you need. So let's just go sort by rifles and icon, and of course I need to set the container reference here. So let's see if I can actually do that there directly from here. So it looks like I can, so I have to do it from the graph. But this is you can actually make a multiple here. So let's add another one here, and maybe we make this. Let's make a spacer real quick here. This one is going to be a 5 there. Okay, so let's make this sort icon by armor, and then let's make this sort by helmets and shoes. So shoes and helmet. There you go. So now I need to go to the graph here, and I need to use the construct event like there, and just get the get this one. Let me just go ahead and rename them real quick. So rifle sort, and then I'm gonna call this armor sort. Armor sort. There we go. So now I can. So all they want here is just the container reference. So set container ref. That's all they need. And oops, okay, I have to duplicate that. And of course, the container is clearly the vendor container that they want to use to sort things out. So let's go ahead and give them that, which is this container 1. Here we go. So it's going to go here, and it's going to go here. And that's it. So this one, let's take a look at actually. So what it does is it uses the GSI container reference, and it calls the add sort highlighted types. So once you do this, it will highlight items by type, and you can remove by doing this. So here's the function. So it simply calls the highlight item by type. So now if we play and I go to the vendor, I should be able to sort items on the vendor here. So if I click here, as you can see, it sorts the only by the rifle. So if I can't drag this one right here. It's only sorts by that. I can also sort 2 at a time. I can inject that. So if you want to sort items, use this. So far we've seen a lot of things about special containers and GSI container and how to equip and equip things, handle their events, and that's all you need to even make attachments for certain weapons. It's just a matter of how you want to approach it. So this the way we do it here in this system is you can make a data table to make local versions of your pickup attachments. And the reason is that you don't want to use the pickup version itself, because you will need to implement the logic for that specific attachment in the attachment itself and not on the pickup itself. So it's just a much better way of doing it, but you can definitely do it any other way if you feel comfortable with that. But let's go to data here, and what we're going to do here is we're going to use to create another data table here, and we will call this and we're make this data table from the local attachment info, and this is gonna I'm gonna call this data underscore local attachments. Okay, so once you do this, so once you click here, it's gonna ask you what is the attachment ID. Of course, we need to add the attachment to our data table, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna duplicate the consumable data table, and I'm going to call it data attachments. So there you go. So I'm going to open this. Of course, I'm going to delete this. So now I'm going to add my first attachment here. So I'm going to make a site, and of course the same thing as the ID. For the type here, we're going to make it a weapon attachment, and let's make it rare. And of course, let's see if I have a site icon here. Okay, so I don't have that, so I'm just going to select that gear. There you go. 1 by 1, that's fine. Let's just make this a site or S, I guess. So that's essentially it. It's not a container, so we don't care. Attachments. Here we go. So we already have the mag and the weapons data table. I guess we can leave it there. It's fine. So this is our site, and let's add a suppressor. So duplicate suppressor. Okay, so everything is the same. Let's just name, change the name here. So name here, suppressor SB. Okay, so that's all we need here. So data attachment, okay, that's correct. Let's go ahead and add these attachment to our inventory here by default. I'm gonna add 2 of them here. So it's gonna be a site from the data underscore attachment. I'm going to copy here and paste here so that I get the data table set here, and then I can change to suppressor. Okay, let's go to the anim here and maybe get the active slot here. So let's see, we have, this is a character reference. So let's just go ahead and do variable here and name it has weapon. Okay, so if we have weapon here, so let's also try to cast this to that character tutorial and then promote that to a variable here, char tutorial. Okay, and then here we can fill that variable here as weapon from the player here, so we need that. So has weapon, so this is in the character here, and of course we're going to grab it from the anim BP here the same way here. So as weapon, there we go. So it has weapon, and then of course if we have this weapon, we'll play the rifle animation here. So I'm just gonna real quickly try to blend just the rifle here, rifle bull. So if I have a weapon here, let me just go ahead and save this to normal local. Okay, so use cached. There we go. So if we don't have a weapon, we can just use this, but if we do, then we'll blend the normal one with the rifle frame or animation. So let's do blend layer blend per bone here, and then we're gonna do this. I think that this one is gonna have to be the base, and then we can use the iron sight, idle iron sight here. That, and then we can do from maybe spine 2, maybe spine 02. So when we have a weapon here, so I'm gonna press a key to switch to the weapon. So I'm just gonna do at the 1 keyboard here, and of course I'm gonna check if I have a weapon here. So equipped rifle, if is valid, okay, then I'm going to change the to the weapon here, and of course I can do X to switch to no weapon here. So let's give it a try here and try it. Okay, so I'm gonna press 1, and there you go. So of course I need to switch the weapon to the player's hands. So let me do that. Going back to the character here, I'm just gonna go attach actor to component here. And of course you can use, once again, the function to get the socket, so I'm just going to do it right away. So rifle on, snap to target, keep relative, that's fine. Okay, so we'll we'll put the parent there, and let's give it a try. Here we go. Okay, so here's our character, and of course at least we can see, you know, the attachments there. We can increase the FOV as well if we want, or the spring arm to 100. Let's see if that works. Okay, so I just increased the spring arm there, and now we were able to see the attachments just fine. Alright, so let's go ahead and do it. Okay, so for our weapon, we're going to start with the special container. So I'm going to go to widget here, and then special containers, and I'm going to simply control W to duplicate this one, just because this one has the interface already implemented, so I only need to modify the containers. So I'm going to do SC my rifle here, and I'm going to open that, and so I'm going to delete everything, and of course so this one has the interface implemented, and of course has this one. Let me just go ahead and rename that to rifle rep. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a overlay here. So an overlay here, and in the overlay I'm going to add an image. So of course, feel free to customize your widgets however you want. So I'm just gonna go ahead and select the rifle here if I have one. Okay, that's good enough. And then I'm gonna start adding some containers here. So GSI container, I'm gonna add it here. And of course, I'm gonna select one by one here. It's gonna be an equip to, give it the ID 0. And I'm going to make this a 120 by 120. We'll see if that is reasonable. Maybe 60 by 60 is reasonable. Okay, so since it's an overlay here, I can select the alignments like this. So I can have it there, and I can of course change the padding as well. So if I want to have it to be a little bit pushed from the left, I can add like maybe 30 there. And then from the bottom, or maybe I could do, okay, so from the bottom here, we can do like 20 there, or 50, I guess 40 would work. Okay, so 35, and then that will be my suppressor slot. Okay, so suppressor container, suppressor C. Okay, so what you want to do here, we'll take care of supported items later, so I'm gonna go copy and paste over the overlay here. This time I'm going to move it to the middle, and this is going to be my magazine container. So I'm going to clear this and clear that, and then I'm going to maybe do from the top. Well, I changed the size here, so maybe we'll do 120 there for the magazine, and then I'm going to push from the top by 30 or so, and from the right by maybe another 20 or 10. Okay, so that looks fine by me. So we only need now a, so we'll name that to mag C, and then finally, and I'm gonna add a site. So site C, and this is gonna be, I'm gonna clear everything here, and it's gonna be in the middle, on the top, I guess. Here you go. And then we're going to do from the left. I'm going to do 50, maybe 60. All right, so we'll put it there. Okay, so 50 looks fine. All right, so this is our container right now, and of course we want to return all these. Let's make some padding in terms of that, so that looks fine. So if you select this, it applies the padding to everything. So so that looks fine so far. So let's go ahead and get the interfaces here. So get list of containers here. We have 4, I think 4, right? 1, 2, 3. No, 3. We have 3, and let's go ahead and delete those. So, okay, so so it's generally a good idea to set some rules in terms of attachments. So, for example, the magazine is going to always be the #1 attachment for all these containers. So if we have multiple containers, special containers, you always want to have the magazine be the first thing and then the site. Okay, so whenever you get this list, you know that the first item is the magazine, so you don't have to look for the ID or whatever, but you can work with the IDs as well. So we'll have the suppressor there, and now we can take care of the IDs as well. So I'm going to make this as 0 here, I'm going to make this a 0 here, and then the site a 1, and then the suppressor a 2. And then I'm going to select the site there. I'm going to do supported attachment type, and this is going to be for all of them. So I'm going to select all 3, and then supported item types here. I'm going to do weapon attachment here, and then I'm going to select them separately here. And now I can indicate specific attachments for these containers. So the general type is weapon attachment. So you can have 50 sites who have the same item type, but you can make specific you can make this container specifically support certain sites, not all, and this is where you do it. So you need to enter it here. So for example, we do like site 1 or site 2, whatever, but since we only have 1, I'm going to enter 1 there, and this is going to support the mag. Of course you can add more. Here is going to add the suppressor here. Suppressor, there you go. So that is so far all we need. Okay, so we're gonna handle more later, but for now what we need to do here is we need to assign this special container to our rifle. So for that we will we'll go to data here, we'll go to the weapons here. So we have our rifle, and then we'll go down here. So special container widget is going to be SC rifle, my rifle here. There you go. Okay, so we can open it there, and that's all we need right now. So now if I go ahead and play and pick my rifle here, and this is now my special container. So I should be able to, of course, as you can see, it's not going to support it here because we set those attachments. So now it's going to go there, and this is going to go there, and of course the magazine is going to go there. Okay, so I want to press 1, of course, and bring and read how much I have, how many ammo I have, of course. So I need to do that. So before we do that though, we need to install the attachments visually. Okay, so like I said, the way to do that is with this local attachment that we made here. So what we need to do here is open that one, and so we need to, of course, indicate the ID that exists in the pickup data table. So site here, same thing, of course, for the ID here, and of course we have 2 more, mag, and then you need the suppressor here, and then the suppressor. There you go. Of course, the attached to socket here, we need to set that up, and of course we need to indicate the attachment class. So the attachment class here, we have these main local attachment, and that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to use here for our main local attachment. So we need to create childs out of this class right here, main local attachment. So we're going to the pickup folder here, pickups here, and I'm going to make a folder and call it local attachments. Okay, so that's local attachments right there. We're going to make a blueprint class out of the main local attachment. So if you look for local, you have main local attachment here, so you need to use that. So we're going to do local here, site. So I'm going to do a Y here just because one already exists. So that is local site. I'm going to duplicate it, make a mag, and then duplicate that one and make a suppressor. Alright, so before we do anything here, let's go ahead and find that rifle and see what we can do with that. So that rifle here has this skeletal mesh here, so we need to find this. So we already have this set up, so let me just go ahead and delete all these, I guess, and just start over, I guess. There we go. Okay, so you should have your skeletal mesh like this. What you want to do here is to add socket. Let's name this a site. Of course, you want to right click here, add preview mesh, see if you have any sites or whatever. I'm going to use that ugly site that I have here. Here we go. And then of course you just want to move it somewhere like there, like here for example. It doesn't have to look pretty or anything, this is just for the test. And of course the same thing here. Add socket, mag, and of course another one, add socket, suppressor, select the mag here, that red mag there, just move it here. Okay, that's good enough. Suppressor. And of course, while you're at it, you definitely want to add a muzzle socket to your weapon. So muzzle, and move it like to the barrel of the weapon there. Okay, so remember these things here. So what you want to do here is you want to go back to your local attachments here, and then set the same mesh. So for the site here, we're going to set the same mesh here. So site, there we go. So that's all you need here. That's all you need to set. And of course, you can change this main to maybe take skeletal meshes if you want, or you can add components here. So if you need a skeletal mesh, you can just click add a skeletal mesh here instead of a static mesh. So this is what? This is the mag. So let's go ahead and add that mag. There you go. So this one has no, this blueprint is empty, but you can add logic specific to this attachment. So let's go and do it finally with the suppressor here. And yeah, so we can just set the suppressor here, and there you go. Okay, so if we go to it, there you go. Okay, so now you go back to your local attachments, and then now you select those classes. So site to attach to socket, this is the socket we just created on the rifle. So it's the same thing, site here, mag, maybe you should have selected a different name so we don't get confused, but this is the socket in the weapon. The ID could be different, of course. Suppressor, and now you select the classes here. So site, wide local site, same thing here, wide local mag, okay, and then wide local suppressor. Okay, so now that we define this, now we can go to the main firearm class, which is the one that we're going to add attachments to weapons. So let me go ahead and find that. So firearm, main firearm, okay, and that's where you add, for example, I mean, I guess you can add the actor components, child actors, sorry. So you need to add child actors. Okay, so you can call this the site actor or attachment or whatever. Just call it attach. Okay, and then control W, of course. Oops, no. Okay, so this is the mag, and this is the suppressor. Okay, so these are going to be inherited by default, as you can see here. So what you need to do here is we need to create some function that installs attachments. So let's go ahead and do install attachment by ID, no, or rather by type. Okay, so we're going to install attachment by type, and then we're going to select a name here. So we're going to do item ID. So it's going to be the item ID, and we need the type as well. So definitely that. So we need the attachment type. So attachment type, and we're going to do type here. So we need the ID and type. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do switch on enum here. So what we're going to do first is get data table row name, and then we get that local data local attachments first. Okay, and that's what we're going to do here, and then based on the type we're going to install that local attachment to the weapon. So we're going to break here. There you go. So we have the type here, we have the, okay, so since we already have the type here, we actually don't need the type. So yeah, so we can actually remove that, but we do need to indicate the type inside the data table here. So where's the local here? So data here, so local attachment here. So site is going to be a site, magazine, this is going to be mag, and suppressor, this has to be a suppressor. So we need to indicate the type here. So muzzle is essentially it. So and now what we need to do here is we need to go back to the main firearm class, and then of course get this one right here and do set class, set child actor class, and we get the class from here. That's all there is to it. But of course we need to select the attachment based on the type. So we're going to do a select node here based on this. Okay, so when you put the type there, it's going to give you the options. So of course we're going to put the site there like that. We don't have all of them, but we have the mag here, and we have the suppressor here on the muzzle. So now it's just a matter of calling this function to install the attachment, and to remove the attachment it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to copy that and create another function, and I'm going to do remove attachment by type. Okay, so I'm just going to select the type here like there. So it's going to take a attachment type. Okay, based on that we're going to do set actor class to nothing, essentially just clear it. Okay, so we also need to set the sockets here. So we'll do attach to component, attach component to component, of course, and the parent is going to be, because we might have a different socket here, so we already have the socket, so here we go. Then we're going to do snap to target, keep world, or keep relative, doesn't matter. So yeah, that's all we need here. So now we can go to the special container here. Okay, so first of all, we're going to find a way to send the weapon reference here. So we're going to add a variable here. We're going to do weapon ref here. So this is going to be a main firearm class. So why main firearm class object reference? So we need to set this reference from the player when we equip the weapon. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go back to the player here, and so when we equip, so for example, we can use the check auto here where we set the rifle here. So once we equip the item, we need to of course get the special container and set that rifle there. So we can get the special container here and do set actor owner here. So we can use this interface event right there, and of course send the weapon reference there. So we have the equip reference, and we can just call it here. So once again, when we equip the rifle, as you can see here, when we call the equip item on the rifle, we get the special container, which is in our case this one right here, and we call the interface function set actor owner, which is the equipped rifle. Okay, and we should also do it on other places where we equip as well. So for now, I'm going to do it here, and that's all we need. So now I can go back to the here, and I can get that event. Where is it? So the set actor owner, I can implement that event, and I can cast this to main firearm here. Here we go, and that's it. I can set it here. And then I can also bind the events here, so I can do a do once here, do once, and then of course I can get the mag site suppressor containers, and then I can bind the equip change here. So there you go. And of course I can do it for all of them. Just to add custom on suppressor equipped. Here we go. And of course I can copy this 2 more times for each container. Okay, so this is going to be the mag, and this is going to be the site. So on mag equipped, and this is the on site equipped. Okay, let's go and compile real quick here. So all we need to do here is just check if we equipped or not. We can get the weapon reference here, and we can do install attachment by type. So we already have that one. We can just get item ID, and that's what we're going to install. And if it's not equipped, we can do remove attachment by type. In this case, we know that this is a suppressor just by the container. So we do muzzle here, and it's the same thing for all of them. So maybe you could make a function that takes care of that, but for now I'm just going to copy paste here. Except here it's going to be, what's this? This is a mag, so it's going to be a mag, and this is the same thing here. And this is going to be a site, okay? So that takes care of attachments. So if we play here, okay, so we have one error here, and of course that is the, if you go back to the tutorial here, we actually need to not set this one because we haven't set it yet. So we set it here. So that's why we actually need to set the pickup reference instead. So get pickup ref. There you go. So that's what you need to pass. Okay. So let's go ahead and give it a try now. Hopefully you can see the attachments on the weapon. So I'm gonna pick up my rifle, press 1 to see the weapon, and then I'm gonna start installing the attachment. So you can also drag over here. So what's this? This is site. As you can see, the site got added there. The suppressor, as you can see, here it is, and the magazine should be added there. The weapon is red, so which makes it a little bit harder to see the site, but it got installed as you saw with the suppressor there. And of course, the same thing, you remove that, it's going to remove the attachment. So that's how you easily make attachment in the system here. There you go. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about magazines and how to handle them. So I'm going to my main inventory here, widget. So let me go to the control browser here, widgets. Let's see, here we go. So main inventory here. I'm going to add some ammo. I'm going to add that ammo there. weapons, and I'm gonna add count 50 here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We want to display the count of the player here. So I'm gonna make a user widget in game widget. Okay, so in this one I'm going to make a, I guess because there's one already exists, I'm going to do y underscore here real quick here. Okay, so we're gonna make a text here. Here I'm gonna do like 0 0. Okay, then the outliner there, and then the font to 50. Why not? The size to content, and there you go. Okay, so we'll put it there and name it ammo count symbol, and then we'll make a function custom event set ammo count, and then we'll make two integers. Oops. Okay, and then do current and max, and then we'll grab this ammo count text right there, do set text. Okay, and do format text, and do curly braces x, curly braces y, and that's gonna give me both of them. There you go. Okay, so that is how you do it. Okay, so now if we play, but of course I need to add it. I'm just gonna do it from the character because I want to have access to it. So begin play here, create widget, the in-game here, in-game widget, or y underscore in-game, promote UI variable, in-game w, and then add to viewport. There you go. Okay, so now if I play, I should have a 0 0 there. So what I want to do here is maybe we can start with this text being hidden here. So if you go to the visibility here, you want it to be hidden. Okay, so when we play, we don't see it. So we only see it when we switch to a weapon. So in the character here, we can get the in-game here. In-game set ammo. And then we can set the ammo. So when we call this one, then we set the visibility. Set visibility to something like this. So now we, so if I switch to the weapon, I should now see the ammo there. There you go. So now I see 0 0, but of course, maybe I have more in that. So one more thing we want to handle here on this special container is the get container attachment by type. Okay, so this is going to help us get a certain container by its attachment type. So we're going to do select here, and then we're going to select by this. And then we're going to grab the 3 containers here and do the mag is going to go here, the sight is going to go here, and the muzzle is going to put there. So, okay, so now we can use this interface function to get a certain container by its by the type here. So now from the character, I can now try to get the current and max from the weapon. So I can get the inventory reference, okay, get the weapon container, get the equipped item, and then get the special container right there. Now we can use that interface function. So get attachment by type, and now I can get the magazine. So get the magazine right there. So I need to make sure that we have a magazine here. So get equipped item. If it's true, I can get the capacity, mag capacity, and that's pretty much it. Okay, if I don't have a mag, I can just show 0 0 there. Okay, so for example, I can get the weapon. Before I switch to it, I can have some ammo in it. So maybe we can have like no, drop 30 bullets, then install the mag, and now I can switch to it and it says 30-30. So now let's go ahead and do shooting. So left mouse button. There you go. So we can make sure that we have a weapon first, and then I can do the same thing here. So I want to shoot, but first I want to know that I have enough. And once again, you can make a function that do all this, so we can call it multiple times. But right now I'm just gonna copy here. So I want to get the special container, get the mag. Then what we want to do here is do the try use bullet. So this function is going to try to use the top item, just like a magazine, of course. And if it succeeds, then we can shoot. Of course, if it fails, then we probably either we don't have enough bullets or something else. So if it's true, we are going to print the shoot here, and definitely going to update this one right here. So we can just do this same thing here. So all we need to do is just once again just get the capacity from this magazine. So get capacity. Once again, if you want to know if you have a magazine, you can just check this one right here. So let's go. So let's go ahead and try. So now we should be able to shoot and see the count update. So that's our goal right now. So let's put some bullets there. And of course we need to handle something else here. The count on the weapon itself. So now I'm shooting, as you can see on the left side, it's updating. And if I open this, you can see that I have 7 here, and it does update as well. So as for the weapon itself, we need to show the ammo count on the weapon itself. So we can go to the graph here of the special container. And so once we are here on the set item reference, we can do see weapon, show weapon magazine here. So we're going to start of course by depending on if we have a mag or not, but we can get the magazine here. I guess we can do a sequence first, like that. Okay, so let's see if we have a magazine, get a mag, or like get equipped item. If it's of course, if we do have a mag here, if it's false, we'll show 0, 0. If it's true, we'll get the magazine here. So get capacity once again, or get mag capacity, get mag capacity. Should have done it. Get mag capacity like that, and do this. Okay, so let's give that a try. And of course, we need to do it while we while we shoot. We need to update that probably. So let's see what happens here. So now if I do this, I need to pick up a weapon actually. So if I pick the weapon now, as you can see it says 0, 0. But if I do a weapon here, some ammo there, of course it doesn't show because we need to handle that. So the way to do that is first, so we need to do the same thing here. So there is an event here that we need to handle. So we have the check status here. So GSI check status, we can use that event to refresh the special container. So we can just call this event right now. So we want to call this is very important. This event triggers whenever the ammo and the mag updates. So definitely want to keep updating the weapon status or the weapon mag size with this event. But also you want to when you install a magazine, you want to call that event as well. So when the magazine is installed, so we want to use the GSI check here, the interface call right now, and just do it on ourselves is fine. So this one is going to take care of the weapon showing. So once the mag is removed or installed, so if we go ahead and install a magazine here, as you can see, there's 30 out of 30 now, and even when we shoot, it's going to update here on our custom widget as well as the weapon itself. So I think that's pretty much it for this. Basically the basics of Jigsaw Inventory system and how to manipulate it and use it to your needs. And of course, multiplayer is going to be next. But if you have a good knowledge of multiplayer, you can definitely translate this into multiplayer. But of course, the focus of this was to give you everything you need to essentially make any inventory system. You're able to make any interaction with this with the tools that we showed in these videos here. So if you have any questions, just let me know. And yeah, we'll be making multiplayer, and that will be fun. So until then, if you have any questions, leave them below, and take care. See you later. Goodbye.